Hello, 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 Facebook family. Facebook family. Facebook family. Woo! Facebook family. All right, I'm back. And man, it's been a while since I've been on Facebook Live, so I thought I'd hop on. We've been through an astrological event that has happened called the Great Conjunction, and that's the time that is said to be the age of Aquarius, the humanitarian effort to change things around to really get things started. So to skyrocket that inception, that initiation, I wanted to make this series called TPM Tuesdays. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what TPM is, come on now, okay? It's my book, okay? TPM. It is available on Amazon. So if you're unfamiliar or if this video doesn't make sense to you, I would highly recommend you check this book out to have much more of a basis and a concept so that you can work from there, okay? So today I really wanted to talk about vision, okay? We talk a lot about people being dreamers. They may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one, okay? We talk about dreamers, how dreamers are asleep and they're dreaming. What I'm talking about here is people who are awake and dreaming. People who are awake and dreaming and taking action on those dreams, those are visionaries. Those are visionaries, okay? So I talk about this in my book, TPM, okay? The idea that a character needs an objective. Now, there might be an overarching objective that, like, I want this from my life. My life, beingness, my essence, my core is to inspire. That could be an overarching objective. However, each character also has an objective in a specific scene. Let's say you're about to step into the grocery store as your ultimate self, as your character. What is the quality that you're looking for? And what is the objective? The objective might be to buy some milk or whatever, right? That might be your objective. However, within that objective of, I need to buy some milk, you have a lot more purpose. You're like, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to grab the milk, I'm going to take it out, go to the cashier, I'm going to take my money out. You have all of that autopilot response of what you're going to do if you've bought milk before, correct? So the character is actually being created through our actions that we take as well. All right, so there's different elements of identity that we can get into, but identity level change is really what is interesting to me. And I've been fascinated by that, like, for a really long time. And we talk about, of course, NLP, Robert Dilt's idea of how, identity is built from the values and beliefs, and then it goes down, and the lowest rung is the environment. So if you're not valuing yourself, you've got to ask yourself, like, look around in your environment, right? Because someone who values you in one environment won't value you in another environment. So it's also the actors, the people, right, who are there in your environment. What up, Kruger? Woo, woo! So essentially, guys, to understand identity, you've got to embody your philosophy in a sense, okay? There's this idea of embodiment. We can all talk about it and think about it, but are you truly embodying what you're speaking about and preaching about, right? Bruce Lee also talks about this idea of being like water, but what does it mean to be like water, right? Like, water is a paradox in a sense, right? It's hard and it's soft, right? It doesn't go back up the mountain. It doesn't check on the past, right? It just keeps going. It just goes through and moves through the cracks and crevices, has this resilience quality as well. It has the yin and the yang in it, right? The embodiment of water. So when he says, be water, my friend, he's not just talking about like, oh, I'm just going to float. I'm just going to go with the flow, man. He's talking about being the flow. And there's a big difference here because one is a sharpness. It's an acuity. It's like I'm saying I'm going to move towards this particular path. And the other one is almost like a surrender process. And flow state is like that sweet spot between both of those, okay? So in terms of identity, James Clear in Atomic Habits, he mentions this idea as well about you can't try to become a reader. You've got to be a reader, okay? So if you're saying to yourself in your language, which is like the software of the mind, you're speaking out into the world and saying, oh, I'm just trying to read. I'm not really a great reader, but I'm trying to do that. Trying to implies you're not good at it yet, so you're trying to. There's trying and then there's doing, correct? So when you say that, oh, I'm just trying to do something, it's like this push initially that it's giving your mind. I'm trying to do it. There's effort involved, right? Whereas if you say I'm a reader, that's an identity, right? That's something that you're embodying in your character. Now, vision is important because vision, what does it imply? We're using our sight. Now, there's sight that we can actually see with our eyes. Then there's also insight. Someone who's insightful sees within his insight or her insight, okay? So when we talk about having a vision for something, people say, man, I'm having a vision, right? Psychics do this. I have a vision. I see something. It's associated with images. So what are the predominant images that you're carrying around in your mind? Because that is constructing your character every single millisecond. That little piece of the image, the symbol that trickles into your daily life through the subconscious mind is how you're actually acting upon your character. So what are the character traits that make you a powerful visionary? Well, one idea is foresight. This is something that us humans are privileged with. Animals don't have this gift of foresight. They can't really plan things from before or see things from before. They're sort of just in it. They're using their primal brains and they're acting upon whatever their instinct and impulse is telling them, right? That's what differentiates animals and humans. However, since we have this neocortex, we got to use it some way, all right? So, in a sense, when we use foresight, when we're like, man, I can actually plan this out in my mind, this scenario, and I can move into it, and I can use the power of my image, my imagination, to construct my world. Now, a lot of people get into the shadow of this aspect, which brings you towards fantasy. I'm talking about imagination. I'm not talking about fantasy. I'm talking about daydreaming with intention, not just daydreaming like a child would. Okay? This is the difference between people who are pioneers in visualization and being able to tap into that feeling and putting it out there in the world, and people who are just merely trying to understand this logically and hearing about it. But the people who know, they know that success leaves clues. They understand that, but they also embody that. So that means they're giving out clues as well through their embodiment of that visionary of what they're trying to create, right? So when we can have a powerful vision, an overarching objective in our life, it becomes our golden north. It becomes a magnetism towards that thing. So whatever issue that we're faced with, whatever issue or mistake or trauma or whatever comes up as a roadblock in our life, we can keep that purpose in mind and making it a law to ourselves like gravity is. That this is my purpose. And I've got to utilize this vision and filter this problem through my vision. You get what I'm saying? Thumbs up if you get what I'm saying. So, once you can filter the problem or the issue through your vision, you're able to handle it a lot more differently. Maybe you haven't found your vision. Maybe you don't know what that purpose or that calling or that agenda is in your life. That objective is. However, the best place to start will be curiosity. Curiosity, being curious about your character and who you are. Self-awareness. Self-awareness starts from the self, from the self-talk, from the self-mastery, from the self-care, from the self-love, all connecting back to the self. So, when you have that vision very clear, and you're like, I'm going to take one little step today, do a little micro commitment that re-engineers my character to the point where even a crisis moment can have a benefit to my life. Okay? Now, if you're coming from a victim mentality, it might be difficult to understand that. It's like, wait, I'm trying to get away from that stuff. What are you telling me? That I've got to go through a crisis to make an impact in my life? No, that's not what I'm saying. But take a look at how people use behavior change. Okay? The movies, the TV shows you're watching, all of that subliminal propaganda, how do they get someone to that level? Okay? How do they get someone to be a persuader? Right? The person who's in between, doubtful of themselves. When you're in between, you're not applying that commitment to your vision. You're still on the fence about something. However, once you can fully commit, it takes more power and control of the system. Right? It's an inner engineering, and you're like, no, I'm not going to do that, or I am going to do this. Right? It comes down to your values and beliefs again as well. So, in a sense, I want you to understand this. People who have propaganda videos out there trying to convince you of things, what they do is they're going to want to use fear as a metric of control. They're going to want to break down your personality so that you're starting from a blank slate again. Okay? This is what people do to try and manipulate you, right? It's like they want you to break your personality down so that they can re-engineer their own vision of who you should be. Okay? Now, besides this deception, why not be invested in this idea of using this for yourself the next time that you feel like you're going through a roadblock or a breakdown? That you know that this time right now you're vulnerable. And through this vulnerability, you can actually construct your character at a much deeper level. You can do that inner work. And sometimes doing the inner work scares the people who, in their shadows that they're unwilling to face, they're being triggered by that as you're doing that inner work. So that's a part of the process too. I'm not saying to ignore that. However, if you simply move into looking after your vision and truly embodying and living through that vision, and whenever you get scattered, whenever you have a decision to make that is an important decision to make, whenever you feel like, man, I'm not really sure, come back to that vision. Come back to that purpose. That is your magnum opus. That is your manifesto embodied. That is your living tradition. That is your lineage. That is your legacy. That is everything that we are talking about when it comes down to activating that part of you that knows the truth and that sees the real you. So, I want to leave this video here. Let me know if you have any questions. If you're watching the replay, let me know where you're tuning in from. If you enjoyed this series, and have an amazing day. May the flow be with you. Check out the Instagram, Flow Zone Academy. Peace and love and blessings, family. Stay legendary. See you guys next.